Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Woo. It is Friday. It's Friday. So listen, I'm super excited. I got the one and only Alyssa. She is the founder, owner of Nomad Cre8tive. And I want to say hello to my peeps who are joining on the call this morning. Definitely giving out those waves like nobody's business. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Thanks for joining the live today. We got a special guest, and I don't know. Well, actually, Isla will be able to relate to this, and she just joined the live here. But Nomad Life, here we have somebody who's going to join the call, and she created a business called Nomad Cre8tive. And me personally, I'm actually living Nomad life right now. So what I'm going to do, and we got her on the call now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send an invite. Boom. Go live with Nomad Cre8tive. What we going to do, and we going to get her on here so we have a conversation. Good morning, Alyssa.
Hey, wait. Something weird is happening.
Can you hear me okay?
I can, but I have this like weird notification. Hang on.
No worries. Technical difficulties. Hey, I'm doing well, Michelle. Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday to you, Isla. So good to see y'all. Listen, I want y'all to know something. I absolutely just love chatting with you all. I honestly do. Like, to me, Shop Talk Quinny was such a life a life boat when this pandemic first hit, and everybody just kind of went in hiding. And I'm like, nah, man. Like, I want to talk to people. I want to hear what's going on and have these authentic, meaningful conversations, which is what we're going to do right now. So thank y'all for joining me today. She's back.
We did it.
Hey. How are you doing, Alyssa?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. I'm excited. It's sunny. It's Friday. Like, there's just so many things on the check box this morning that are just going good.
The sunshine really does it for me, honestly. I'm such an outdoorsy person. And like in the winter when I can't just like be out all the time, I'm like, please, I just need the sunshine in my house.
That's it, right? That's it. Like, and it's funny because when I was in Dominican, like, that was the thing that me and my friend were saying, like, back and forth. It's like, man, like, even if I didn't go anywhere else all year long, the sun, wherever I am, as long as there's sun, like that's the part that's almost like non-negotiable.
You'll find me like creeping by the window where like there's that little ray of sunshine. I'm like sticking my head out. Take it all in.
It's just so funny what it does though for like the
Yeah,
psyche, for
totally.
everything, right? Like when it's a cloudy day, it's like,
You can find some joy in that too, but I definitely feel the motivation more with the sun.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining the show this morning. I'm so pumped to have you on here. There's so much we're going to dive into and chat about. But first of all, I got to know, Alyssa, where are you from? Where are you living now? And tell me about this business, Nomad Cre8tive. I got to know.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Montreal. I was there for several years, then spent about 3 years in Toronto, and more recently moved to the Quinte West area. So this is why we're connecting. You know, we're neighbors now, which is great. So I've been here for almost 2 years now. I actually moved here like when the pandemic just started, which was an awesome time for business. Yeah, I figured now was like a good time to start connecting with other companies and businesses in the area now that I'm settled in. And yeah, so I run an agency. It's a remote creative agency called Nomad Cre8tive. I started it in 2018, and it was really kind of a solution to bring my passions together and really just like live the life that I want to live, and in turn provide that for other creatives like myself. So my background is actually in graphic design, and that's what I studied in school. And I worked as a freelancer. I worked for several companies in the past, and slowly but surely my freelance business started to grow. Clients were asking me to support them in ways that I wasn't necessarily skilled enough to do so. So I began outsourcing bits and pieces here and there. Which was great. So that's kind of like the whole connecting with freelancers concept of the business. And the travel part, I actually spent a semester in school in France. And so while I was there, I traveled the world. It was incredible. And when I came back, I was like, how can I keep doing this? And so that's really where the concept of Nomad Cre8tive was born, because our whole team is remote. So they're all freelancers and subcontract. Everyone works on a per project basis. They have the option to say yes or no to projects. So it really gives them that flexibility to kind of, make their own schedules, choose their own hours, things like that. But I also wanted to provide that quality work that an agency does, and that stability that an agency provides that sometimes freelancers on their own don't always provide, right? And I've heard, both ends of the story, where sometimes freelancers on their own may not be as trustworthy, and that doesn't go for everybody. But having an agency kind of like solidifies that and gives security to the client and allows us to create projects that are much bigger than a single person can create. So we build teams with our freelancers and operate as an agency. So essentially offering agency quality projects at premium freelance prices, given we don't have overhead costs. So it's really the best of both worlds. The client wins, the creatives win. I'm happy I get to work from anywhere as well. So that's the gist of it.
Wow, wow, so cool. And there's so many things there that like just really, really excite me. I mean, you talk about like, you built something that's really, really unique. And I love this because like the first thing I think about is overhead costs. And honestly, like that's a huge like buzzword, pressure word for businesses, brands, especially over the course of 2020 and 2021. Like I know, like in a lot of cases, it's like, man, like I just need to be able to make payroll,
Mhm.
right? Like a lot of people had that on their mind. And when I think about like no overhead costs, you only get paid, the people that are working with you, they only get paid like on a per project basis. Like how much like peace and just like, being able to sleep at night, like how much has that brought you as far as joy and peace in what you do?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really know otherwise. For me, I guess when I was starting the business, or even prior to the idea, I always thought, wow, like you really have to be making a lot to support a bunch of full-time people. If you have a bad year, you might not make that much money, and those thoughts kind of have gone through my head. But because I never built my business in that way, it really is, every account that we work on is profitable because we're outsourcing based on the talent that we need at that time. So we don't have any full-time employees. We do have freelancers that work with us regularly and almost full-time at this point, but they're getting paid hourly, right? And they're getting paid for their time, and the client is paying for that time. Depending on the client, whether it's, let's say, a marketing monthly retainer, maybe at that point we're doing hourly. But if it's, let's say, a premium branding package where we're developing a brand from A to Z, that's something that, we've done over and over again. So we have base rates of which our freelancers get paid a base rate as well. So there's always that profit margin, and there's never really that fear of not making a profit. So at the end of the day, I always know the money will be there. It's ultimately my job to I guess, get to how much money I'm going to make, right? So it's about pushing the sales strategy and making sure that I'm constantly building the portfolio, getting new clients, making sure the clients are getting bigger every year, right? A big thing that I talk about is that I strongly believe that freelancers and creatives should always be pricing themselves a little bit more every single year, whether it's an extra dollar per hour or a few bucks per hour, because that year you grew and you learned. And so you should be compensated for that growth. And so just like a freelancer, I believe that the agency and the agency world should also follow that model. You know, you have an agency rate, and that rate should also go up and reflect the quality of your work as you continue to grow as an agency.
Just dropping dimes right now. I absolutely no, but seriously, like I think this is really great value because not everybody like has just come to this notion of like, oh wait, there's another way to do it other than let's hire employees and let's have a payroll and kind of have like staff going and like especially for a lot of new businesses, like there's some smaller businesses and people that have joined this call, and I know like some of them are thinking about hiring their first individual, and they're like, man, like how am I going to support them? But then you bring up this concept and like per project basis and things like that. Like I feel like that's really empowering to somebody who may feel quote unquote like crippled by like how do I actually make this work to
Of
grow
course.
my team.
I mean, I commend, anyone who hires someone full time. Like even for me, I mean, I've built my business model in a completely different way, but that's scary to me. If I ever had to hire someone full time, I'm sure that I could, but I just choose not to in terms of my model. But for those who maybe need it more than, the type of business that I'm running, it's a scary thing. Like I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. And by the way, to anybody who's joining the call right now, welcome. So good to have you here. If you got any questions about, nomad life or Alyssa, where to go find out more about her, or just any questions you want to ask at all, all appropriate, mind you. Drop them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them. So, Alyssa, I want to go here with you because first of all, I love how innovative you are.
Thank you.
And I there's this realization that I came to, and that realization was about the difference between being content and being satisfied.
Hmm.
And for me, that being content is like, I'm not unhappy with what I have. I feel very blessed. It's kind of more on the side of gratitude. Like I'm not salty towards like, like, this didn't work out or this, I should be having this by now. That's what I think about when I think content. But on the other side, they're satisfied. And it's like, it doesn't matter how good things are where I am. Like I'm always striving. Like I know that there's the purpose is greater.
Yeah.
And I think about you when I think about that statement because I think your actions speak towards that concept of like being content, but not being satisfied. So when you think about like what you're building and what you're doing, and we chatted about this a little bit the last time we talked about like really kind of building a business that runs without you. Whoa,
Yeah.
that's a really scary concept to a lot of people. Like, tell me what you think, what words come to your mind when you hear that phrase, building a business that can run without you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think any entrepreneur and any business owner can agree that you become very attached and kind of possessive over what you've built, right? It's your baby. You've put your blood, sweat, and tears into your business and your brand. And to let someone else take the reins on the majority, if not all of it, is scary. And I think the big and most important thing in that is building trust and making sure that whoever you are bringing on board and whatever team members that you have or employees that you have, you trust them. And that doesn't happen overnight. So you might have to bring them on board for, let's say, a trial period, see how things work out. You want to make sure that they communicate in the same way that you do, that they treat your clients in the same way that you do, that ultimately you share similar values because they're an extension of you at the end of the day. And any good business owner and entrepreneur knows that if you do everything yourself, you will not be able to grow, right? You have to delegate, you have to let go. And that was a big lesson for myself. And I'm still, in the process of doing so. In the last 2 years, I would say I've removed myself from the majority of the executional work. But as I mentioned earlier, I was trained and went to school to be a graphic designer. So I have actually the creative skill set to create, right? And to work on brands. I've worked in digital marketing agencies, so I can build out brand strategies. I have that strategic mind. But if I did it all, number one, I would be capped out as to how much I could do, right? Because I'm only one person. And number two, I would burn out. So like I said, it's the trust, building that team, those relationships that you really trust, and then slowly letting them go, giving them that freedom, or maybe not freedom, but just the ability to, take the reins, and then CC yourself, get yourself CC'd on the emails, make sure that you're still kind of keeping an eye out, but also like giving them some space, because you want to show that you're also giving them that trust, right? You don't want to be breathing over their neck and constantly telling them what they're doing right and wrong, because people will learn from their mistakes. And when you see them do those mistakes, or something that's maybe not reflective of the way you want to run your business, that's where you could step in and be like, hey, so I noticed XYZ. I would really love it if you did it this way. And do it that way next time. So it's pretty simple, but not easy.
All right, I got to take my glasses off of this one because I might get excited, Alyssa. I might,
What's on your
my
mind?
glasses might fall off because of my excitement. Because this is I absolutely love this conversation right here, and I want to go as deep as we possibly can in it because I think it's gonna bring a lot of value. And I want to learn too. Like I want to learn and share and hear from you as well about how to get to a place where you can delegate, figuring out how do you go about doing that, and what are some ways that you can really begin to remove yourself from the business. I learned that there's like three ways, types of ways you can run a business, like kind of milestones, if you will. One is like the business cannot run without you. So you're the bottle washer, you're the dishwasher, you're the admin, you're the CEO, you're everything, right? That's not what we want, right? But a lot of small businesses, like they are at that
For
first
sure.
kind of
I
entry
think everyone
level.
kind of starts that way, right? And it's good. It's good
Yeah,
to learn and to know all of the assets of your business, for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. And then we got the second part, whereas the business can run without you. So that means like, you can take 2 weeks vacation
Hmm.
and know that everything's not going to blow up. Things are going to kind of go on without you. And then the third level, which very rarely people get to this level, is the business grows without you.
Hmm.
So those are kind of the three things. But I want to focus on the second one first because I think like a lot of people may find themselves in the first category. And I want to kind of talk to you and hear from you about ways that you kind of went about getting to that second category. And I love that you said CC. I do a lot of that as well. You kind of keep your pulse on things, but you're not like boots on the ground
Overbearing.
doing the
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
but you kind of have that high, bird's eye view of things. Like let's have mindset for starters, because let's be honest. Like a lot of what's holding people back from going to that second step is what's going on in here.
Yeah.
How did you what kind of things would you say that really attribute to you being able to make the decisions to kind of get to that second level
Hmm.
based on how you think? What are some maybe limiting beliefs you had to kind of get over or work through or things of that nature?
I think that at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing for work, number one, it has to make you happy. And number two, you need to also be happy without it. And you need to know how to be happy on your own and not necessarily, rely on anything else for that happiness. So I know that some people are so attached to their work and their work is their life and they live and breathe their work, which is good to a degree, but it's, in my opinion, not necessarily healthy, because I truly believe that having that downtime is just as important as, being busy, if you will. and I feel like busy is like an awful word. I don't want to be, connected with busy, because busy today means overworked, and overworked is not, um, I want to say, efficient in a way. So for me, I mean, this is more of a new practice for me. I'd say at least in the last 2 years, I started really focusing on my mental health and making sure that I was happy, because, starting a business is very overwhelming. And like I said, I was doing everything at the beginning from A to Z, and it's gets to a point where you exhaust yourself, you stop liking what you're doing, and then it's like, when you're relying on this to bring you joy, and then that is taken away, then what else do you have, right? And I feel like a lot of people kind of get stuck in that hamster wheel. So like I said, personal development, mental stability is super important. I have a morning routine. I wake up early, I go to the gym, which is my basement. So I make sure that I get a quick run and I walk in. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of a workout, some stretching, and then a quick meditation between 10 and 20 minutes. So this really allows me to just, be with myself, be with my thoughts, and take it one day at a time. Because no challenge is too big, really. That's how I feel when I'm in this headspace. So taking care of myself and my mental health is first and foremost the most important. And in the last 2 years of me focusing on that, I've noticed a huge improvement in myself and in my business, because whatever you do and however you take care of yourself will reflect in everything else in your life, including your business. So my business has grown. I've gotten stronger, better, happier, greater team members. I love the clients that I'm working with. All of these things have been a reflection of me taking care of myself. And it sounds silly, but I really believe that it is true. And I know that, mental health is something that people are talking more and more of these days. And so I cannot stress it enough. Like, that is the number one most important thing. And so to kind of like jump on to how that allowed me to then take myself away from my business, I just had so much more clarity on what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. I was able to listen and digest what my clients and my team members were saying and apply that feedback in order to take my business to the next level. And like I said, having that trust in the team that you build, and then slowly being able to step back, is of most importance. But for things to not be chaotic when you're gone, you have to put certain systems in place. So this is where like the technical business stuff comes into play, making sure that certain tasks are streamlined, that you're organized, that if you're not there, people know where to go and what to do. So different systems that I use. Go ahead. Did you want to chime in there?
Well, no, yeah, totally. Like I was thinking, like, and I want to get into these systems, because
Yeah.
I think like the tactical, practical part of like the execution is huge, and I want to go there with you. And just to touch back in on the mindset piece, because you said
Mm-hmm.
something that was really important, like like taking care of your mental health first,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of just flowed into everything else and made it better. And there's something that, like, there's a statement that I made on LinkedIn very recently, and I'm actually curious what your thoughts are on it. I said that I think the challenge for a lot of business owners, and I think that something that, if we had this realization, if we came to this understanding and really believed it, I think that we would be, as entrepreneurs, I think we would be kinder. I think we would be more fair. I think we would have more peace in our business versus fear,
Mm-hmm.
anger, and entitlement.
Yeah.
And I said the realization was 99% of things in this life do not matter. And when I say like don't matter, like I mean don't matter compared to the 1% of things that matter. And I said like, and I went on to say, I was like, if you're, if my business goes under, um, I actually have an opportunity to reinvent myself and come back and do something else.
Yeah.
And not to get like super like deep into this, but like if a loved one of mine passes away, like not so easy to come back from something like that. Like I can't just, it's a huge difference. So I say that not to kind of go deep and dark, but I say to give perspective. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think 99% of things don't matter compared to the 1%. But I think a lot of business owners treat their business like it's in the 1%
Right.
when it's not,
Right.
when you
I mean,
really think about it.
I definitely can relate to that. And I feel like I have been there and put myself there before, especially when I first started. It's like, if you make mistakes, you lose clients, you learn from your mistakes, right? That's what ultimately allows you to grow and be better and do better. So I remember that in those first few years when, something would go wrong or a freelancer didn't deliver as expected, a client fired us because we didn't do as well as they expected us to do. Like these things happen, especially in your early years, you're learning, and then you just get so taken aback by these experiences that you feel like it's the end of the world, especially when it's your business and you're in the early phases and something like that happens. You're like, oh my God, this is the end of me. It takes such a toll on you emotionally that it's not healthy, right? And so this is like a big thing too that entrepreneurs, I feel, struggle with, is separating personal and business. And really understanding that whatever happens at work, you close the door at the end of the day and forget about it. Because if you bring that back home, even if you're working from home, like out that office door, it will drain you, right? You don't want to be sleeping thinking about all this stuff. Like, I feel like this whole concept, eat, sleep, and breathe business, it's not healthy. It's not healthy. You need a break. You need a break. You need to disconnect, because in those moments of disconnect, that's where the inspiration comes, and that's where the power of growth really comes through.
Totally agree. Real quick, by the way, anybody who's joining the live right now, if you got any questions for Alyssa or myself, please drop them in the chat. So grateful to have you here as we chat about some really valuable stuff. I think that will be very helpful to entrepreneurs. So let's get into systems. And let me put my glasses back on so I can actually see what time it is. Make sure we're not going over. What are we at?
I think we're good. 11:52.
Okay, we're good. We're good. So let's go into systems. Like, what type of systems have you put in place in your business that you would say has been super beneficial when it comes to, like, I think about things like, saving time, saving, like, the need to, like, always be clarifying things with the people that you're working with, or how they work with each other. Like, what are some things that you've put in place that you found super helpful?
Right. So there's a few tools that we use internally that are mainly for like execution purposes and communication purposes. So Slack, as many people may know, is really kind of like this online chat where you can connect with your team members, share assets back and forth, as opposed to emails. It's just quicker, right? It's kind of like instant messaging. So we use that with our team, of course. And then in terms of like time tracking, where we bill our clients hourly, we use a tool called Toggle. Super simple, straightforward. You press play, tracks your time, creates reports, yada, yada. And then in terms of project management, we use a tool called Asana. And there are tons of tools out there, honestly. If you just Google online project management tool, like I know Monday.com is one. But we use Asana. So that allows us to kind of break down the tasks by project, by client. And the way we like to work is in columns, and it's kind of like a drag and drop system. So you have the resources, so any client resources that we need, logo, website, to do, in progress, in review, and completed. And so we just drag and drop the tasks as they go. You can add, remove, change, modify, tag people. It's a really great system, and depending on the type of project, sometimes we actually have our clients jump in there as well so that they can see the progression of things, and if there are revised deadlines and things like that, if they're all added in there, they could get email notifications. It's really awesome. That's kind of like the tools, the external tools that we use. And then in terms of the processes that we have in place to streamline some of the work, we created a lot of templates. So we build out a lot of brand decks, marketing strategies, reports for social media. So things like that. You're essentially using the same framework. You're just changing out the information based on the client, based on the project, right? Because the design of the presentation is branded Nomad Cre8tive, and we're just plugging in the information for the client. So all of those tools are built out, things like pitch decks, proposals. For the most part, proposals do get customized, but in terms of how we display our services, that's all created in advance and is reused every time. So I know that not all companies do this, but it's the biggest time saver. It's a lot of time invested up front, but once it's done, it's done. You don't really have to do it again. You maybe look at it every 6 months to a year to adjust and reflect based on how your business has changed and evolved. But for the most part, it stays the same.
That's beautiful. Yeah, those tools are super, super helpful. Like for example, like we use Monday.com
Mm.
as a platform, and definitely like those templates, they're like super helpful. Like you just kind of fill in the information like based on like what's relevant to that client and what you're working on, which I've found super helpful. So I think so. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's going to be super helpful to the people listening. And one thing I'll add as well, like, it's funny because like one thing I'm learning this year, and I want your thoughts on this, and you alluded to this earlier, which is like, like on brand. And like when I think about on brand, like, like how would I do things, and then how can I relay like how I would approach something to my team so that when they approach it, they kind of approach it with like that same mindset, that same tone, things of that nature, almost kind of like the things that are more kind of like mindset driven. And the best example I know of this is like there's a guy, Dave Ramsey, and he actually wrote a book.
Mm.
And basically, like anybody that joins his company, they have to read this book. And
Oh.
this book basically goes through like everything from how we market to how we do the books to how we approach conflict to like everything. And
Mm.
he puts it all in this book, and then he makes it mandatory for each employee. He's got like 1,000 employees or something like that in his company, and everybody has to read it before they join the company. And I thought that was super, super cool. But I want to hear from you, like, what are some things that you kind of do to kind of help your team understand like how you would approach things, so when they go about it, like they're doing it in a way that it's a reflection on you positively and how you would approach certain things.
Yeah, so similarly to what this guy did, I mean, I definitely didn't write a book, but something called an onboarding deck, which is just, a PDF presentation that's put together that outlines the organization, the key players, our values, things like that. Very high level, nothing too in depth, because I really feel like, in general, I'm the one who actually interviews and hires everyone on the team. So I already know, at least from what they've presented through the interview, that I like what I see, and that's the type of person with similar values that I want on my team. So I feel like there's already a bit of a filtering process that happens there. And then that onboarding deck is really just kind of like, okay, let's make sure we're aligned. But for the most part, it's really only like the higher level team members, like the seniors, who will be communicating with clients. As opposed to the juniors who are more executional. But in order for them to execute based on what the client needs specifically, we, for every project that we do, hop on a brand discovery call with our clients. And I make sure that any stakeholders who are going to be working on the project, whether it's a graphic designer, web designer, marketing manager, the project manager even, I have them hop on that call so that they understand the scope of the project and also what the client is all about, right? So we go over the client's mission, vision, values, their competitors, target audience, things like that. And we take note of everything. So it's all written out if ever someone else ever has to hop on the project and they miss that call. But for whoever I know will be on that project to start, I make sure that they're there, because there's something different about when you hear it. It kind of like sinks in different. And then I offer them the opportunity to kind of like chime in, ask questions, ask for clarity if they want. So that just makes sure that everyone's on the same page. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love it. I love it. Like clarity up front, and then also like opportunities throughout the process to get people involved, see the vision, see how you do things. And I think that's awesome,
Mhm.
and a great approach to it. So I appreciate you sharing that. Alyssa, our time's coming up, but I gotta get this question out because I'm big into having a vision, having dreams, things that we want to do in life, and then actually working towards them, actually executing on them. And I got to know you're building this fantastic, successful business, and you're doing an extremely great job at it. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
And I got to ask, like, what is the dream of Alyssa going into the future? I'm, obviously like nomads in the name, so I'm like, are you going to be doing like 6 months here, 6 months there, down the road? Like what are some of your dreams and aspirations as you continue to build your empire?
Yeah, so I mean, the possibilities are endless. Let's just say that. And I think when I first started the business, I was also in a very different space and time in my life. I was traveling every single month. I was in a new destination every single month. I was on the go for 4 years, living out of a suitcase essentially. And it was amazing. I learned so much, and the pandemic kind of put it to a halt, obviously. But at the same time, I also had moved to this area where there's an Air Force base because my husband is actually a pilot. So his lifestyle and where he has to work is very much sedentary, whereas the life that I was leading prior was very nomadic, right? And that doesn't mean that I'll never get back to that. We still love to travel. We travel regularly, but it won't be as consistent as it once was. But that also has to do with the fact that I did kind of get that out of my system, and now I'm looking to actually build a family soon and settle down. So, hoping that all goes well, and that's in the cards for us. That's something that I want to consider, and obviously a part of building my business and removing myself from it is to allow myself to have that time with my family when we do build it. So that is, I guess, where I stand in my business. But of course, I want to continue growing. I want our clients to continue to grow. Obviously, no one ever wants to really stay stagnant, but that's the big picture. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And the thing that like really sticks out to me is like you're clearly building a business that complements the life that you want to have.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Like why should we um build our lives around our business? Why don't we build our business around our life? And I just feel like that's such a freeing statement, and you're an absolutely incredible example of that.
Thank you so much. Well, it's been so great being on this podcast. I hear my dog clicking in the office, so he's coming in. Do you hear him?
I do. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining the show. Really, really appreciate you. And thank you for sharing so much value with the peeps today on the show. And I hope you have a terrific weekend coming up. And this won't be the last time we get you on here. But I appreciate you. Much success to you in the future.
Thank you. You as well. Have a good one. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Bye.